We're back with part 2 of the Melbourne Pro Punters panel, and what you can do is, if you want to get involved, head to One to Follow. You can grab Potts' set, you can grab Maddie's set, you can head there and you can get the stuff for the meetings coming up, and also there's plenty of sporting stuff there too. So I did the sports podcast with those boys this morning, so there's some heaps of products there to help you win, so make sure you head along to One to Follow.
Yeah,
and
for those that love a punt but are time poor and haven't got time to do form, there's plenty of alternatives for you there at One to Follow, isn't there?
Yeah.
So my stuff, you can get everything from on a Saturday, just the individual tips in each race and a suggested quaddie, to the $20 service, which is selected races 5 or 6 days a week, back into the 2 or 3 horses in a race, to the full sets, which is a full market to 100% for every race, comments on the key runners, the map, and a comment on the market, and a betting plan. And what do the punters get for your stuff, Matty?
Yeah, I sort of play into most days generally, focusing in on the country and provincial areas. I must admit I probably made an error over the Spring Carnival in trying to tackle too many city races.
Yep.
Obviously that's what people want at that time of year, and it's a trap I won't fall into again next year. But definitely my niche is sort of the country and provincial races. Love the maidens, love horses coming off barrier trials, and generally you'll get something 5 or 6 days a week. So yeah, head along and get involved.
Yeah, for all the guys like us, Matt, myself, Johnny Walter, John McLeod, all that, the biggest danger is trying to do too much. You know, that's one trap that I think we've all fallen into at one time or another.
I don't do that, do I, Potts?
That's your strength.
I try to do absolutely everything. So as we mentioned at the end of part 1, we've got a brilliant email from, he gets into that's another thing that you get with the full settings of the pods, you get to go in the chat room on a Saturday. There's some really smart guys in there, and you get some really useful information in the chat room. I haven't been in there for a while, but I'm returning this week, Potts.
We're down pretty much to, it's a good thing to talk about, Chuck. We're down pretty much to, in terms of people regularly contributing, to MT, Michael Thomas, who owns Happy Clapper, who's a former bookie, as shrewd a reader of markets as you would ever come across.
Correct, yep.
You know, MT's just, there's not a trick in this game that he doesn't know. It's great to have him in there all the time. Rexy, who's just Rexy's just a price predator. We've had Rexy on the show.
Yeah, we've had him on the show. Yeah,
you know,
been on the show.
He's just a ripper. He's just back recently, I think. Anyway, from Hong Kong, he went over there for the international meeting. Yeah, so well done there.
I reckon between the international meeting and the Magic Millions, I must be the only bloke that hasn't been to either of them, because everyone I know either went to Hong Kong or is going to Magic Millions, because Rat was over at the international meetings too.
Right, was he, Roden? Mark Roden?
Yeah.
Good stuff. And there's another contributor there. I won't sort of go into any details about him, but God, he provides some amazing information about runners that are about to be well backed. So anyone that's getting my full set, if you've got an opportunity to come into the chat room for a look, please do so. And if you want to contribute, go ahead. Don't be scared.
No.
There's no question you can ask that we won't mind answering. And the other thing I do is I provide track updates throughout the day.
Yep.
Because it tends to evolve usually. It's not a static target, it's a moving target usually, particularly when you've got over 100 horses at a meeting. So,
well, one of the really good contributors is a guy who's on there as Benicio, and it's his birthday today, so happy birthday, Benicio.
Happy birthday, sir.
So I'll just read out his email. So this is sort of after it all blew up last Sunday about Potts not being allowed into Werribee. Firstly, let me say I'm not a professional punter. My livelihood does not exist on being able to produce an income from the sport, and therefore I understand my sensitivity to some of these issues may not be as heightened as those that are involved at that level. The discussion about what drives wagering is important, however it needs to be placed in the overall frame of reference. Individual complaints such as races stewards should investigate and Potts not being able to walk Werribee are important and have merit. Wagering, however, will be managed at a macro level. The battle for racing bodies will be fought and won on their ability to provide an appropriate funding model for the sport in the medium to long term. This means the right policy to extract fees from both the tote provider and any corporates and exchanges. The greatest power punters have is to get their point across is not to bet. However, wagering continues to increase year in year. This is publicly available data from the ARB fact book. Therefore, it is difficult to sustain any argument on the basis that punters won't bet. The facts say they do and continue to. As I said, this is not to say that the arguments are wrong or irrelevant. It's to say that the shape of the discussion needs to change. I suggest there has never been a greater disconnect between the professional punting community and the recreational punting community than there is right now. The basis of this argument is the issues that create clear frustration on on shows like this one and the racing round appear not to be bothered the recreational punters, as evidenced by the fact that they continue to bet. The simplest explanation is wagering looks different today. Traditional sources of wagering, such as on-course bookmakers and retail wagering, are losing relevance and will find their natural levels in time. The influence of corporates is rising and continuing to, while Betfair plays a critical role in the wagering ecosystem. Therefore, the shape of the discussion needs to shift from being combative and territorial to cooperative. The professional punters I have had any dealings with all have a wealth of knowledge most racing authorities, and most other punters for that matter, could only dream of, yet the majority of their knowledge is delivered in a way that is combative, i.e. stewards, this is important to us, you haven't looked into it enough, or available to very few as a paid subscriber or to an individual service, i.e. pay me and I'll tell you what I know. Shows like yours and Racing Rate make a solid contribution to lessening the second point. Broadly speaking, for racing to thrive in the future, we need to find a way to understand what drives the new world of wagering, because that is very different to what it used to be, and to unlock the professional punter's knowledge in a way which engages the punting community. The power of arguments professional punters can bring to the table are rich, but cannot be brought to the table under the premise that punters will not bet. This may be the case individually, but not a subset of subscribers. However, this isn't true as a punting collective, which makes this argument out of line with the way wagering is and should be managed in any case. Please shoot holes in this as you see fit. I certainly won't take it personally. So thank you for a very well thought out and well written email, Benicio.
Yeah, arm yourself, Flo. We're about to poke a few holes. No, it's good. Let's go through it piece by piece. So Benicio's saying that the administrators, all they're worried about is turnover and turnover increasing. So they're going to look at the broad spectrum. And if that turnover is going forward, then they sort of don't really care about the smaller issues that bother us. Yep. And Benicio's sort of saying that those issues might be felt more intensely from people that are trying to earn a living out of the game than those that are just doing it for a bit of entertainment. So what have you guys got any comments on that?
Yeah, I think he's right in saying that I believe wagering on horse racing is increasing by a small percentage over the last couple of years. There's a couple of points of clarity to that though. We've got more Saturday races than we ever have before. Every card now has 9 races on a Saturday, which is your big turnover day. And to extend on that, you've probably got more races in higher turnover periods, so that's naturally driving turnover up. Wagering on horse racing as a percentage of the overall wagering pool is diminishing. Yep. Now, if that trend continues, then there is a point where wagering, our turnover figures will start decreasing. Yeah. So that means that the wagering on sports, which obviously has boomed over the last 5 years, but is continuing to take a bigger slice of the overall wagering pie. So that is concerning. I mean, obviously sports betting is new and it's always going to increase at a
So you're saying administrators should be more concerned about market share than they are about the actual, just the raw, whether the turnover went up year on year?
I do think that. My biggest point in this area though is I think a very short-sighted view is taken to the wagering figures. I think we worry about year on year and that's about it. I think, we need to be doing things now to ensure that wagering levels are at an acceptable level in 10 and 20 years' time. It's an industry that is wholly reliant upon its wagering to fund everything. And, during the week we've had the trainers and owners saying that in Victoria the prize money needs to go up to 100,000 just because New South Wales did, and maybe that's correct, and I'm not saying they don't deserve it, they may well, but they need to understand that for that to be possible in 10 or 20 years' time, for that prize money to be at 150,000 in 10 years' time, we need to continue driving wagering turnover. And I personally am concerned that the decisions being made now, the somewhat neglect of trying to get people back to the races, the disconnect between punters and administrators and racing bodies is only growing. And whilst we may not be feeling the pain now, in 10 years' time, the actions of today may well have a big impact on where the industry is in the future.
Yeah. I've just got a question. You boys might be able to answer it. Is this growth that we've seen in horse racing turnover, the growth that we've had maybe over the last 3 or 4 years, as you say, about it's small, has that been driven by the fact we've had such an exponential explosion in the corporate bookmaking and they're driving it, and that is nearly reaching saturation point now, where it's going to get to a level where that will probably plateau out and then start to drop off?
I think that is already starting to plateau out to an extent. I think a lot of the sort of skin bookmakers are disappearing a little bit, or there's not so many coming online. I think also we've seen, that the advent of the internet has seen us go from placing a bet on dial-up, where you could occasionally get a bet on if your internet happened to work 15 years ago, to you can be in the toilet at Chadstone and you're accessing your iPhone and you place a bet in 10 seconds.
Yeah. Thanks for that mental picture, man.
But that's the reality. Is everything over the last 10 or 15 years has made betting easier, more attractive, and customer friendly. Now, I can't see how any way that betting is going to become any easier. I mean, it simply couldn't. Surely you can bet in your sleep.
Yeah.
So that natural growth is going to slow, that we have seen, as you say, from the advent of all the corporates. And I mean, I just think there needs to be a more holistic, more long-term approach to this. And the decisions made over the next 2 or 3 years are going to have a big impact in 10 or 15 years' time. And
I understand that you're just giving your opinion. That's fine. So I'm not take what I'm just going to say the wrong way. But I think looking at all these, the detail, the micro detail of what's driving turnover, where it's going, is it growing, what it's doing, all of those related issues would be very complex. And there are people that's their job.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So it's not my job. So I could not tell you exactly. I wouldn't have a clue what the current state of play is with turnover and which direction it's heading in and exactly what's happened even in the last year. So I've got no hope of having any clue what it's going to do in the next 5 or 10 years. But there are people employed that's their job, and we can only hope, I suppose, that they're good at their job.
Absolutely.
That's the hope of the side for us. Can I just say to Benuccio, though, that you talk regularly through your email, Benuccio, about that the punters continue to bet. And my point is in that subject is that the reason they continue to bet is because this game is fantastic. It's exciting. It's chess on steroids. It's the best game in town. But the question I'm always asking to administrators, to those people that are charged with examining turnover and what's happening, is it being maximised? Are we getting is it as good as it should be?
Yeah.
And like I would find it very hard to believe that an administrator could sit here with us and say, yes, we're getting everything we can out of it. We couldn't be doing a better job. I almost always feel that racing is just operating at its lowest common denominator because a lot of the administrators don't really seem to they don't seem to want to make it as good as it could be. I'm almost contradicting myself because I'm saying that that's their job and they should be, that they are looking at it, but then I just get the feeling that it just is nowhere near as good as it could be, and they seem so prepared to just outsource the generation of new punters and new customers and new people interested in racing to the corporate bookmakers and allowing them to hold that market completely. And to the point where in Victoria now, the on-course bookmakers have become completely irrelevant.
Oh, yeah.
We got
were you talking about the holds last weekend of 70 bets,
And they've got no impact on the market anymore, really, because the VOP's now
taking that away from
the market. And the corporate bookmakers have got full control over it. And there's interesting things happening with that VOP, and the interaction between the VOP and the large punting groups is really interesting, I think.
Yep.
And I would ask the corporate bookmakers, you wanted this, you're part of it, you've decided to have it. You used to have an excuse not to bet the fluctuations, okay, like products like Top Fluck or Best of Four or even Best of the Best. on those out-wide meetings like Bairnsdale on, was that Tuesday or whatever it was?
Tuesday. Or
Kilmore
on Monday. Geelong
and even yesterday, a lot of operators didn't offer top fluck at Mornington. I would say to you, to the corporates, now that you've got control of it and the race in Victoria, what's their excuse for not offering those products now? Now, if my customers want to bet top fluck at a provincial meeting, why can't they? Previously, the excuse was that there was a small market on course, it was too easy to manipulate, and it's not fair to require us to bet the prices we've got no influence over. Well, now you've got complete influence over the prices.
Yep.
It's your market. So I would say to the recreational punters out there, contact your corporate bookmaker and Racing Victoria and stuff like that, and ask them why they're not offering the same products on the other days that they're offering on the metropolitan meetings.
The key one that I can't understand that they haven't used is, like, we saw an erosion of it towards before the VOP came in, which was Best Tote and SP. There's some joints that still offer it, and it's a competitive product during the week. I use it pretty often. Like, when you're controlling the SP, and like, all you've got to do is go back and look at the percentages of what the VOP is compared to what the APN used to be. Like, the APN on a Saturday, top fluck, like, they were killing themselves because it was anywhere between about 95 and 103. Whereas now the top fluck, if it gets down below like 108, they're doing well.
Jeez.
Like, there's a lot more percentage in their favour. The SPs are generally in between 115 and 120. So the fact that you're not offering that with your Best Tote product, like, I don't understand. Like, if someone from the corporates knows the answer, then, like, I'm not hard to find. So just let me know. Like, it's just, now that you've got complete control over it, I just reckon you should be. And especially, that was a city meeting yesterday. It was a Sandown meeting that they moved because of the track. It was a Wednesday city meeting. Everyone should have been, if it had been at Sandown, if it had said Sandown instead of Mornington, they all would have been betting top flight.
Maybe a few more trainers would have sent their horses to the races as well.
Well, I would just say my comment on what you just said then, Juppy, that's right, man. That's 100% right. That's, unfortunately, the trainers don't respond well to these provincial tracks being used for city meetings, and nor do the punters really. The turnover is lower.
No. Well, you had a 4-horse field there in race 2 and a couple of other small ones.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And only 7 races, they had to drop one race off because they had insufficient nominations.
Yeah.
I haven't studied all the percentages, Juppy, to be able to mount an argument against what you just said. So I'm not looking at comparing the current top fluck percentage from the VOP to what was previously coming from the ring.
Yeah.
However, what I have done has been keeping a record of horses I would consider key runners in the race that are likely to be targeted by the market, and the price that's been bet in relation to SP.
Yeah.
And I would say now is a very good time for punters to be using top fluck if they're able to identify those targeted runners. I think they're being a better price is being bet about them than would have happened in a bookmaking ring.
Well, and that's the other thing. If you're happy to ring up, there's still half a dozen or more on-course bookies that happily, if they're there, they'll happily take your business. And if you ring up early enough, you'll get top fluck and you'll actually get looked after. You'll actually be a customer rather than a number.
So I guess what I'm saying underneath a little bit, Juppy, is the key players in the betting ring, okay, and you know who they are. We don't really, I don't think we should name them.
No, neither do I.
No, but so the key players in the betting ring that were controlling what the top fluck would be on the key runners in certain races, to me had better insight than what who is now controlling what the top fluck is, those runners, which is the joint boys that probably don't get an opportunity to talk to each other.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
So, you know what I mean, mate? I don't want to, is what I'm saying clear enough without coming out and saying it?
I understand completely what you mean.
Yeah. And if those joint boys did want to start talking to each other, I think they'd have trouble with the ACCC, so I wouldn't suggest it's a very good idea.
Cheerio to all the joint boys out there too.
Anyway, so where are we moving on to next with Beniccio's thing here? Have we covered it all, or is there more stuff? It's such a good email, I can't remember it all. That point he makes about the argument needs to change to be more, sharing information and conciliatory and trying to form some sort of bridge, I suppose. I mean, that's a really good suggestion. I think we'd all like that. And at one stage, Bernard Saundry had suggested we're going to have a punters forum, didn't he, Juppy? And we're going to get together and have a chat and see if any good ideas come out of it. But it never happened. So I guess if you say to us, Benicio, we should make the first move, I'm not quite sure how to make it. Maybe we could write to Race Victoria and say...
We've got to get a new CEO first.
We'd love to get together with you guys, with a lot of our subscribers or whatever, punting audience, and try and come up with some sort of method for us all to communicate so we can improve the situation to maximise it, which is in all of our interests, to get as many punters into the game as possible, to maximise turnover, and to not just allow the corporates to have complete control of the whole game. Would be good for all of us, I think, but exactly how we go about that. So, I mean, if anyone from Racing Victoria is watching, please feel free to contact me or Juppy or no matter whatever, and we'd be only too happy to play our part in facilitating some sort of open communication.
Let's have a look at what's something that's already in place. So we've spoken about it a couple of times. Friend of the show, Craig Knott, he's on the Harness Racing Advisory Committee, and they've got him on there for his wagering and betting expertise, and he's putting things in place to help drive turnover and create betting interest. One of his little projects has been helping with setting up the program and comparing what's happening with the Monday night meetings at Melbourne that then get beamed into France, where they hold 10 times more than what we do over here, and just seeing what he's doing there to maximise what they're doing. Why there couldn't be a little forum like that where we could say, here's some ideas that we think that will keep horses in the population and keep your field sizes up, and to increase betting interest on those events.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a conduit between punters and administrators. I think also in thinking about this issue a bit, which I have, I think also punters are somewhat to blame. That they sort of, we as a group need to bandy together a bit more, rather than everyone individually having their barbs or their opinions or whatever else. Actually make a concerted effort to create a group or a platform that allows punters to communicate with administrators. It's a bit of a two-way street there, but the industry would definitely benefit from further insight and involvement from punters. And every successful organisation, industry, whatever it is, thrives from listening to their customer.
Yeah.
And that's something that's missed out a lot in horse racing.
Yeah. So we need our own version of the CFMEU or something, do we? Or what do we call ourselves?
Well, I've got the barbecue and the cricket set. So
how long
at the front
acronym could we come up with?
Oh, huge.
Well, we've got the Recreational Punter Society. That's a start.
The sporting, cricket, football, racing.
Wow, we won't even get on this.
Punter Society. Anyway, before we change something, I'd love to hear from Craig as to the effect of some of those initiatives that he's driven, and what effect they've had on turnover. So, Noddy, if you're going to, I know, you like keeping a low profile out there, but if you can just sort of maybe give us some information as to how effective some of those things have been, that'd be great. Yeah,
and the thing is, it's been quite good, because the thing with the harness racing is, I follow a few of those boys on Twitter, and there's not as many as the Gallops guys as you'd imagine, but they're, in some ways, I'd say they're nearly more passionate than what the Gallops guys are, and they are keen to sort of put ideas forward, and then they sort of discuss it a little bit, and they've all got different opinions, but they're all passionate about it, and that sort of comes through. And they're they had the decision during the week with the decision to ban the whip in harness racing, so it's certainly got its challenges. I
almost had a hallelujah moment the other day. I was listening to I think it must have been John Massara on RSN, and he said, look, we've reduced the padded version and blah blah blah, and really in essence it's actually a riding crop, not a whip. Well, now Pony Club have had that mastered for years. No one ever complains about whips at Pony Club because they call them crops. Let's just start calling them crops. What we need to do is ban the word whip.
It'd be a start.
Ban the word whip, just call it a crop, and then everyone will just not really worry about it. You know what I
It's
mean?
probably also the image that Pony Club has in society as opposed to the image that horse racing has in society that puts it on the back foot. You're never going to have activists turning up at the fence down at Werribee when they've got Pony Club on a Saturday morning, but for some reason...
I don't think we're far away.
Not far away.
Well, there was a dozen protesters at the Ballarat Cup when I went to the Dogs the other week that wanted to ban greyhound racing.
Yeah.
So, they're encroaching from the other direction.
But those people, I mean, they don't. All they want to do is they want racing to cease.
Yeah.
Right. They don't want to ban the whips. They want to ban racing. Right. So if you're paying any attention to those people, you're just going to tie yourself up in knots. So any of the journalists out there that think that those people speak for some kind of majority, it's a myth. They're just this tiny little fringe element that are to be ignored. That's what they are. Anyway.
I'm a bit of a fringe element myself.
But I like talking to you, Juppy. I like listening to you.
Yeah, but that's because I'm mad, those pods. It's an interesting one. We just, from what I've seen, we just seem to be giving him a little bit too much of them. Like, the only other suggestion that I can come up with is, I know they're probably never going to do away with it in the thoroughbred code because you do need the stick to sort of control them, but...
The crop.
A crop, yeah. But whereas with the driving whips that they had there, they're called flick whips, because literally all they do, they don't mark the horse at all. All they do is make a noise.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, maybe you can get away with not having them, but just have some sort of noise maker that's that's on the reins or handheld or something that you, as you go.
A little battery device, Juppy.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to use it. One thing I won't be marketing it as is a jigger. But like, just if you had something there, because if that's all they're doing is making a noise, it gets rid of the visual perception.
Yeah.
But it still means that they're getting. But it's like, it's funny. Some horses need the whip. Like some horses need it to get them going. Like, would Northley have been the horse he was without the whip?
Oh, look, it's such an... I hate discussing this. It's such a non-issue. It really isn't a big deal. Like, really, I mean, I would just... Yeah, I mean, you're not going to win with the people that want to ban, so don't worry about them. That's
why these half measures are...
Exactly. And just getting back to the whip rule, though, because the actual rule itself is quite important to racing. Where are we at with... the rule was apparently being looked at and they were going to look at rejigging it. Has there been any advancements there?
I think they're going to do that after they finish with the Cobalt inquiry.
Yeah, okay.
So, who knows when that'll be. Like,
I think Des has moved to the Australian, and it's all going to be, he's part of it, so I'm sure it'll sort itself out. Can I just say on that Cobalt inquiry, the whole thing was very boring, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The one thing that did catch my attention, I've mentioned this a few times, but I just want punters to think about it there. I was astonished, I'm not sure what the right word is, astonished isn't the right word, but anyway, it caught my ear as to how much betting some of these vets are doing. Some of the betting that come out, like one of the vets that was dragged into that hearing, kicking and screaming, that didn't really want to go, they basically just said he's like, a chronic compulsive gambler that can't help himself, you know what I mean? So I just think that's a really interesting thing. Interesting.
All right, well, that'll just about do us for this week's show. As I said earlier, head to One to Follow, grab Potts' stuff, grab Matt's stuff. Should be a cracking weekend out here if the weather stays like this. I think the weather's going to be nice. So,
and for those interested in a bit of a track report, Juppy, I'll be doing a podcast with Matty Taylor in the morning, so that'll go up sometime tomorrow before lunch, and I will give a report on what I expect the track to be like here on Saturday.
And
as best I can at that time.
For those who haven't listened, I mean, I would advise everyone to tune in and just understand exactly what benefit a punter like Darren can glean from walking the track. It's really important stuff.
That'll do us for this week, guys. We'll see you next. Good luck, punters.